Hello viewers, good day, and it's a nice time to have you here with us today on this channel. Today we are looking at likely JAMB questions on the subject government. Please settle down and come along with me. The first question we're looking at here today is this: which of the following is a fundamental principle of democratic governance? Fundamental principle, that is basic principle that governs democracy. Centralized decision making, censorship of the media, citizen participation, authoritarianism. When we talk about democracy, authoritarianism is opposite of democracy. Censorship is likened or common with the military government. So the correct answer to this question is option C. Indirect democracy, where majority of the people are participating in the process of making policy for that country. C is the answer. The next question: which of the following is not a source of public opinion? In other words, all are sources of public opinion except one: opinion polls, academic journals, social media, political parties. Academic journals is like theorems, proposals written, so it has nothing to do with public opinion. So the answer to this question is option B. The next question: in a parliamentary system of government, the head of government is typically elected directly by the people, the leader of the majority party in the legislature, appointed by the judiciary, chosen by the head of state. Of course, you know that in a parliamentary system, the head of government is the prime minister, and the prime minister is the chief of all ministers, is seen as the leader of the majority party in the legislature. So option B is the good answer for this question. Okay. The next question: the policy of indigenization was introduced under the regime of Yakubu Gowon, Olusegun Obasanjo, Ibrahim Babangida, Sani Abacha. The answer is what? Ibrahim Babangida. Babangida was in the military of state between 1985 and 1993. And it was at that time indigenization policy was introduced. So option C is the correct answer. Who is the current chairperson of ECOWAS? Bola Tinubu, Alassane Ouattara, Macky Sall, Nana Akufo-Addo. In this question, there is no answer. Why? Bola Tinubu, of course, was the previous or the just past chairperson. He was there for 2 years. Remember that the chairperson is expected to spend a year in office, and now you could be re-elected for second time. After then, another person take over. So the current chairperson of ECOWAS is Julius of Sierra Leone. Julius something of, I think, Mada. He was Mada of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is the current chairperson. He took over from June 2025. So it's going to be there till next year, June, to the next ECOWAS summit. So at the next summit, Julius will also step down for another person, or he will be given a second chance as he gave to Tinubu. So for this question, no answer. It's possible that this question was asked before June 2025. Are you with me? Very well. So the correct one is Julius from Sierra Leone. Sierra Leonean president is the correct Julius Bio. Julius Bio. B-I-O. Julius B-I-O. Bio. Mada Bio. Okay? Of Sierra Leone. That's the current chairperson of ECOWAS. So we'll be there till next year, to the next summit. And by the next summit, the new person will also be elected at the ECOWAS summit. The next question: which of the following is a feature of Nigerian federalism? Nigerian federalism is peculiar. It's different from that of American federalism or Canadian federalism. So let's see. Single party system? No, that is not even a federal system in the first place. Centralized fiscal system, autonomy of local government, strong central government. Our own type of federalism is the one that the central government that is what they call federal government, is very powerful. That's why you say a president is like a king. Even the governor seems like a Father Christmas. Any governor having any problem in their state, they run to the president. This is not supposed to be, but that is the nature of our own federalism. So, and that is why we're looking forward for a structure in such a way that power will be devolved. There will be devolution of power from the center to the states. And once you are devolving power to the center, responsibilities are devolving to the states, much more money will be shifted from the federal government also to the states. So focus will not be on the state, no longer on the central government. And that is what we call true federalism, which is being practiced in US. So the correct answer for this question is strong central government, though it's not supposed to be, but that's what we have. If the president refuses to sign a bill within a specific period, it can still become a law through legislative override, none of the above, judicial review, public petition. Now, when a president, remember there was a video we did on the process of lawmaking, from the first stage to second stage to committee stage to report stage to third reading and finally assent. Now, when this bill has passed through all those stages or processes, either in the upper house or the lower house or in both houses, then they have the third reading. After the third reading, they pass it over to the president for assent. Assent means approval, okay? Using his veto power. He may decide not to approve the bill. He may veto the bill, that may refuse to sign it, okay? If he does that, he must give reasons to the legislature, the lawmakers, why he's not signing the bill to law. And then the legislature will reconsider that bill in the face of the complaint of the president. And after they look at it, if they see the genuineness of his complaint, they can revoke the bill. But if they notice that his observation or complaint has no big deal about the bill, what they do is that they will give him specific time, I think it's about 60 or 90 days they will give to him, to get advice from his advisors and his ministers, so as to what, put the bill into law. But if he very insists they will not sign the bill to law, then the Senate president, who is a legislative arm, will call for what they call a joint sitting. A joint sitting of the House. Joint sitting of the House, of both the lower and the upper house. The lower house in Nigeria today is the House of Representatives, the upper House of Senate. So when they meet the two houses in the joint sitting on that particular bill, then they will do majority votes. And once majority votes have ayes, that means yes for the bill as automatically becomes what? A law. And whether the president signs it or not is a law, he must execute that particular law because his power, his veto power, has been overridden by what? By the joint sitting of the power of the National Assembly called Act of Parliament. So the correct answer here is option A, legislative override through the Act of Parliament. A is the correct option. The next question. Which document serves as the Constitution of the United Nations? United Nations is the international body of all the countries in the world, independent countries in the world. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, this is one of the documents of United Nations that guarantee human rights, that all nations, all member states sign into it. Geneva Convention, Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, Charter of the United Nations is what? The Charter of the United Nations. The Charter of the United Nations is like the Constitution, the law guiding the operation of the United Nations. Option D is the correct answer. Pressure groups primarily aim to promote social equality and justice, gain political power and control, influence public opinion through media campaigns, destroy the functioning of the government. Pressure groups are not interested in contesting for power. They are known as interest groups, groups that only influence government in line with the interests of their members, of their groups. So they are only just to influence, not to contest for election like political party. So the answer to this question, the closest answer to this question is option C. They influence public opinion through mass media campaign for them to reason with them, to agree with their demands that are putting forward to the government. Option C is the most correct answer. The next question. In which system of government is the executive and legislative fused? This is what they call fusion of power. You know, we have what they call separation of power and also fusion of power. This was an opposition of power is when the three organs of government, legislature, executive, and judiciary, are properly separated through checks and balance. All right? We have also done a video on this. You can check up our archive on this channel. We did a video on the organs, the scope and organs of government, and all this explanation was done. Okay? So the opposite of separation of power is fusion of power. It's the whereby the legislature and executive basically are fused together as one body. And this is very common under parliamentary system of government. All right? Parliamentary system, another name for parliamentary system of government is cabinet system of government. Okay? Why? Because the prime minister, who is the head of the executive, is the chief executive, is also a member of the parliament, legislature. And all his ministers expected to what? Majority of them are appointed from the parliament. All right? So they are both executive as well as what? Parliament. That's a fusion of office or fusion of power. So it is common in a parliamentary system of government, also known as what? Cabinet. So option A, absolutely, is the answer. For presidential system of B, what we have is separation of power, where the three organs of government are properly separated. A is our answer for this particular question. But assuming they are asking you for presidential system, then it's not the only fusion. What you have is what? Separation of power. Okay? What is the primary source of revenue for the local government in Nigeria? Taxes, grant from foreign countries, or revenue federal allocation? Every month, that's what they call federal allocation, where Nigerian income, the country, income for the whole country, is being shared among the 36 states and the 774 local government in Nigeria, as well as with the federal government. Option D, federal government allocations, is the correct answer. Jus sanguinis is a principle that this is a Latin word. It means citizenship by descent or by blood relation. That's parental citizenship. It's a Latin word. Parental citizenship. Option A is the correct answer. Parental citizenship. Jus sanguinis. Okay? A Latin word. Which pre-colonial Nigerian kingdom was known for its artistic and cultural achievement? Nupe, Igbo, Kanam, and Benin. You know, when you talk about cultural heritage, you cannot but less remember Benin Kingdom. Even to date, in fact, we are made to understand that many of the artifacts of Benin Kingdom found in United Kingdom were all stolen. Okay? They were taken under colonial era by force to UK, and they are still there by now. So Benin Kingdom, of course, option D is the correct answer. Nigerian foreign policy is guided by the principle of military dominions, economic self-sufficiency, national interest, territorial expansion. There are three major factors or objective of Nigerian foreign policy. One is national interest. That whatever policy the government is making must be in interest of all, not the interest of the oligarchy, not the interest of the tribal interest of the president, but the interest of all, national interest. And the second one is what they call African interest. In other words, Nigeria sees herself as the giant of Africa, the big brother in Africa, and when it's making policy with other countries outside Africa, Nigeria consider other African countries' interests, so African interests. And the next one is what? Non-aligned interests. Nigeria, in making our policy, will not support either of the two blocks existing within the United Nations, Western Bloc or Eastern Bloc, Warsaw and NATO party. Non-alignment. So these are the three major factors or principles that guide Nigerian foreign policy. And one of them is the national interest. So option C is the most correct answer for this question. Okay, the next one. The Nigerian Constitution guarantees freedom of speech, under which fundamental right? Right to freedom of thought, right to privacy, right to freedom of expression, right to life. The answer is option C, right to freedom of expression. You are entitled to express yourself even when you are accused for a defense. You have the right for a defense. You have a freedom of speech. You have right to speak. Somebody cannot say shut up, close your mouth when you are supposed to put a defense for yourself. Right to freedom of expression. C is the correct answer. I hope you're enjoying this session. Please subscribe to this channel to enjoy more of our videos, and also advise that you share the link with your friends. They can also learn what you're learning. This value, you are getting value, all right, for your time. Which committee is responsible for the detailed scrutiny of a bill detailed scrutiny, ad hoc committee, standing committee, joint committee, select committee. When you talk about the legislative arm of government, there are committees. The House itself, the whole House, is a committee on its own. They call it the whole House committee. It's a committee on its own because I don't like to discuss about laws, about bills. So the whole House is a committee. Then we have standing committee. The standing committee are the committee that are set up by the rules of engagement of the House. Then we have standing committee for education, we have for finance, we have for agriculture, we have for youth, we have for sport. They have all these standing committees with chairman as the head for all this committee. Okay, so that is another committee. Then they can also have an all committee, an emergency committee set up just to try to discuss a particular case, and after then they disperse them. Okay, and we also have what we call joint committee. Joint committee, particularly when there's a difference between the upper house and the lower house, Senate and House of Rep. If they're discussing a bill and there's a kind of divergence, then they could set up a middle joint neutral committee to reconcile the differences between the two houses. Okay, but the one that do the detailed scrutiny of any bill, the answer is the standing committee. So when any bill is on health matter, there's already a standing committee on health who will sit on that bill, who will do a kind of investigation on that bill, who will also go out to meet professionals to get information on that bill, and eventually will bring a recommendation in form of a report to the whole committee of the whole House. So we have committee of the whole House, we have standing committee, we also have joint committee and ad hoc committee. Okay, but the answer to this question is standing committee, option B. Which constitutional amendment introduced the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria? 6th, 4th, 5th, none of the above. The truth of the matter is that we are shouting 6 geopolitical zones. What are the 6 geopolitical zones? We have the 4 cardinal points: north, south, west, and east. Okay, so here we have north, west, here north, east, here south, west, here south, east. Okay, and here we have north, central, and here we have south, south. Okay, so these are the 6 geopolitical zones. But this arrangement is not constitutional. It is not recognized by the Nigerian Constitution. It was just like a political agreement. Another thing that is similar to this is this rotational presidency. Rotational presidency between the north and the south. There's nothing like that in the Nigerian Constitution. It is an agreement among the politicians. It is a political structure that is put in place so as to create a kind of balance, in the administrative system of Nigeria. But they are not constitutional. All right? So no constitution made provision for this. Hopefully, by the time they are doing an amendment for the Nigerian Constitution, they may decide to consider this. Okay? Because it's already becoming part of our national life. So the answer is none of the above. Okay? The next question. Which arm of government has the power to declare laws unconstitutional? Judicial, the answer is judiciary. Judiciary arm of government interprets the law, define the law, explain the law, and with its power called judicial review. With judicial review, this organ of government, judiciary, can declare any law that is inconsistent with the Nigerian Constitution as null, and void. Null and void, which means illegal and unconstitutional, by its power called judicial review. Okay? Even though the legislature has made the law, even though the legislature has signed the law, if the judiciary, in the process of interpreting, explaining the law, they notice that it's inconsistent with the spirit and the letter of the Constitution, they will declare such law null and void, which means illegal and unconstitutional. So the answer to this question is option A. Option A. Okay? The next question. A political party that advocates for social equality, workers' rights, and wealth redistribution is more likely aligned with which ideology? From what you see here now, this party is centered around the people, the interests of the people, the welfare of the people, and anything that has to do with welfarism. What do you call it? Socialism. So this is socialism. Okay? Socialism. All right? socialism. So the answer is B, option B. Gerontocracy is a form of government in which power is held by, when we say geron, the word geron is old, right? While cracy is what? Politics. So when old people and politics that we have in Nigeria today, we have all of them, that refuse to retire. They say the young, you always say that the young will rule, young shall grow, young shall grow. When will young grow? When the old have refused to leave the stage of power. So gerontocracy is old people ruling. Old people ruling. Alright? If it's religious leaders, the answer is what? Theocracy. Theocracy. If it's military junta, the answer is what? Kakitocracy. Kakitocracy or militaryocracy. Okay? Very well. So the answer is option D. The old people ruling are known as what? Gerontocracy, as we have it in Nigeria today. The next question, the second ballot is based on the principle that a successful candidate must obtain absolute simple majority, 40% of the vote, 50% of the vote. Now, you know that what used to lead to second balloting is when the first round of ballots, when there is no winner, all right? Then the first runner-up and the second runner-up, first runner, I mean the party or the candidate with the highest votes, party or candidate with the highest votes, and the first runner-up. First runner-up means person with second to him, second to the highest. The two of them will now go for another round of election 7 days after the original election. Now, when this another election is not taking place between these two, it will now be based on what? Simple majority, which means the winner takes all. The winner takes all. Whoever scored the highest is the winner. Okay? Which means originally the first election was based on absolute majority. That we have in Nigeria today was based on absolute majority. Absolute majority means that before a person is declared winner of the election, he must have secured 2/3 total majority votes. 2/3 total majority vote from all the vote cast. 2/3. Okay? But as it is now, this must have been done and there's no winner. Since there's no winner, nobody scored this, then there will not be a runner-up, a second balloting between the highest votes, the party or the candidate with the highest vote, and the first runner-up. That means the next highest. Two of them will now be based on simple majority. So the correct answer here, second balloting is always based on what? Simple majority. Because the first ballot has already tested absolute majority, they couldn't meet up, then they will now go to simple majority vote. Option B is the correct answer. The tenure of the president of the UN Security Council is monthly basis. The members of the Security Council, there are 15 members in the Security Council. 15 of them. We have 5 permanent members and we have 10 non-permanent members. Okay? So the chairmanship of this council is within these superpowers, the founding members. US, UK, China, France, and Russia. So the chairmanship is rotational every month, okay, among these superpowers, right? Option A is the correct answer. Political authority is vested in the state, judiciary, government, armed forces. Of course, the government. Why? Because within the government, we have the judiciary, within the government, we have the armed forces. A state is an entity, it's a geographical entity. So it has no political authority. The authority is invested in the government to use it on behalf of the people of that state. So the answer is option C, government. Option C. Okay, so let's see the next question. Unicameral legislature are popular in unitary federal confederate. What is unicameral? That is one chamber of lawmaking, one chamber or one house of lawmaking. The opposite is what? Bicameral, where you have 2 houses. Every state in Nigeria has unicameral. Every state, House of Assembly. Lagos State House of Assembly. Anambra State House of Assembly. Imo State House of Assembly. Ogun State House of Assembly. Alright? But when I say bicameral, it's for all Nigeria. Nigeria is a country operating bicameral legislature, 2 houses, House of Rep and House of Senate. Okay? So unicameral is synonymous or common among a unitary system of government. While in the federal system, you operate bicameral so as to give more room. But the federal system is basically for a larger country with heterogeneous society, okay? Society with diverse culture, history, and what have you. So, to make room for representative, they undertake bicameral legislature, just as Nigeria is doing. But for unicameral, it's unitary system of government, which is basically an homogeneous society and a small society, all right? In the cabinet system of government, individual responsibility of ministers means that I'm surprised to see this individual responsibility of ministers. Because when you talk about responsibility of ministers under system of government, we have two responsibilities. We have what they call individual responsibility and collective responsibility. This individual responsibility particularly is synonymous to presidential system of government, where the president appoints his ministers by himself from anywhere, all right? And for appointing these ministers, each one of them are individually responsible to Mr. President. He hired them and he can fire them at any point in time, okay? But the opposite, collective responsibility of ministers, is synonymous or is practiced under parliamentary system of government, where the prime minister is obligated, mind my word, is obligated to pick his ministers from members of his own political party in the parliament, in the legislature. You can see the clause or the clauses. So his hands are tight compared to the president. So, but when I now saw this question, cabinet system, which is also parliamentary system, and I'm saying the federal responsibility, it's like, you know, they are putting things that are not supposed to be together. If I can collective responsibility, oh, well, I'm fine. In a collective responsibility, the implication is that if one minister fails, all the ministers have failed. And by so doing, when you are removing the prime minister, he goes with all his ministers through what we call vote of no confidence. The government will be dissolved for the shadow government, for another government to come to power. All right? That's under parliamentary system. But in a presidential system where we have individual responsibility, firing a minister does not affect the government. The president will hire another person. And when you impeach a president, may not also affect the ministers, unless the new president decided to fire them. Okay? I hope you get understanding. But let's look at where they are going at. Where JAMB is going at with this particular question. Let's see. It's saying individual responsibility of minister in cabinet system. Let's see. Only ministers can be held responsible for errors, of course. As long as it's individual, you are responsible for your office. Whatever goes well or wrong in your office, you take responsibility. A minister must hold his subordinates responsible. Why? The prime minister can remove an erring minister, no individual can be held responsible. So the answer is A. For this question, the answer is what? A. Very well. All of the following are examples of public corporations in Nigeria, except all of them are, what is public corporation? Public corporations are government-owned enterprises, government-owned businesses, all right? So this JAMB, this Nigerian State Development Authority, anytime you see the word authority, you see board, take note, or you see corporation, they belong to government. So the only one that doesn't belong to government is the bank. Zenith Bank PLC belongs to what? Shareholders. Shareholders. I'm privileged to have a little share from them too. Just few ones, okay? So the answer to this question is C. All right. The role of an alkali under the Hausa Fulani political system is probably to, under this Fulani pre-colonial era, we have two major officers that has to do with law, legality, law, courts. We have alkali and we have the Grand Qadi. The Grand Qadi. The alkali was the head of the Sharia law, Sharia courts, normal regular court, Sharia courts. He administers Sharia legal law. While the Grand Qadi is the head of what? Sharia Court of Appeal. Just as you have High Court, Federal Court of Appeal, they also have what? Sharia Court and Sharia Court of Appeal. So while Al-Qadi is head of Sharia Court, Grand Qadi is head of what? Court of Appeal, Sharia, under the Islamic injunction. Adjudicate under Islamic laws, make Islamic law, exclude Islamic law. The answer is what? A. Adjudicate under Islamic law. To adjudicate means to punish lawbreakers. To to decide justice when they are brought before the law under Islamic law, Sharia. Option A is the correct answer. Capitalism is an economic system, whichever. We did a video on this system of government, and also in economics, we did another video on this system of economy, capitalist, socialist, and mixed economy. So please, you can check out the video so that I can get details explanation of this. When we say capitalism, what are we talking about? We are talking about the system where private ownership, private or individual ownership of the means of production, distribution, and exchange of goods and services. A system where we have the bourgeoisie, the rich, in charge of the economy. So the answer is individualism. C is the option, the best option for this question. Okay. The next question. A government controlled by a few people for their own interest is said to be their own interest, not the interest of all. It's called oligarchy. Oligarchy means few people ruling. Okay? Few people ruling, just as you have in Nigeria, sort of democracy, those people in government, they are just oligarchy. Group of people ruling for themselves, by themselves, and working things out for themselves. Alright? And that's when they are there, they don't want to leave. So oligarchy is the correct answer. Pressure groups are formed mainly to capture state power, replace bad government, compete with military, certify this, and we have explained this earlier. Option D is the most correct answer for this question. The next question. The productivity of public corporation is believed to be enhanced when there is increase in employment, deployment of staff, increase in working hours, less political interference. Basically, many public corporations are not doing well because they are more like dumping ground of politicians. They are like places they used to compensate for political losers. That's what we call it a dumping ground, okay? So there's so much of political interference in the operations of public corporation, and that leads to corruption, and that's why they're not doing well, all right? So option D, when there's less political interference, our public corporation will do just so well, okay? The next question, NEPAD. What's the meaning of NEPAD? It means new partnership on African development. New partnership for Africa. Which option is saying that? Option D, new partnership for African development. It was introduced when we changed from OAU to AU, Organization of African Unity, to African Union. Then we also have NEPAD. It's one of the millennium policies of the AU. Okay? D is the correct answer. The next question. Under the Hausa pre-colonial administration, the office of the Prime Minister is usually occupied by the Waziri. The Waziri. Galadima is like the Minister of Finance, in charge of money. Galadima. Madawaki is in charge of the cavalry. Cavalry means army. Okay? This one, Seriki is just a chief. Go Seriki Father, go Seriki Ruwa, go Seriki Maji. Okay? Now Seriki Ruwa is one in charge of fishing officials. Seriki Maji is one as treasurer of the emir. But the one that is second in command to the emir, which is like prime minister, is Waziri. Okay? The next question. Nigerian Port Authority is an example of, we have discussed a lot about that, public corporation, government-owned public corporation. Okay? An agent in which the state undertakes direct political socialization is the church, school, peer group, mass media. It's the school. Because through the school, the government introduced what they call civic education, all right? Through citizenship education, through which they are able to open, even government, the one you are learning right now, they are able to reach out to people on their civic responsibilities and social lives, okay? So the school is major agent for political socialization that government use, not church, not peer group. Mass media is open to everyone, okay? The school. The next question. Power that is delegated is exercised by devolution, directly, by coercion, indirect. Devolution. To delegate means to devolve, to give you what is yours to somebody to use on your behalf. You are devolving. Devolution of power. A is the correct answer. D, sovereignty is acquired through. We also did something like this when we discuss sovereignty. Types of sovereignty: de facto, de jure, political sovereignty, legal sovereignty, and what have you. So de jure is a democratic sovereignty that's acquired through a democratic process. Law grant treaty force is by law. But if it's de facto, that's what they call de facto. If it's de facto, not facto, facto, F-A-C-T-O, then that's by force, like the military. But the answer to this one is law. Option A is the correct answer. Okay. A group of people who live together under a common law within a definite territory is what? Is a state. Because all the elements that make up a state is here. One, there's a group of people, human being. Two, there's a territory, an entity, an area. And of course, there's a law, a constitution. That's a state. That's the definition of a state. A state. Option D is the correct answer. Okay? The next question. Political socialization is associated with military takeover of civilian government, transmission of political values, political socialization. The answer is what? Transmission of political values. Socialization is a process of transmitting political culture, political values from one generation to another. Option C. This is likely going to be our last question for today. According to Aristotle, a form of government in which the few rule for the benefit of all. We have answered a question before, for the benefit of few. But this one is now for the benefit of all. Okay? Hierarchy, aristocracy, autocracy, polyarchy. Possibly aristocracy. Possibly here. The question is dicey. Possibly aristocracy for the benefit of all. Aristocracy means when the noble or the best in a society is ruling on behalf of the people. At this point, and with this question, we come to the end of this session. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed the session. Please subscribe to this channel to enjoy more from us, and also share the link with your mates or your friends so they can also get value as you are getting. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm sure you enjoyed the content you just watched. To see more episodes as that, preparing you for your oncoming exams, smash the subscribe button on this channel right now and visit the playlist that we've made for you, covering over 50 types of different exams.